On a quiet morning in May 1967, the wilderness surrounding Falcon Lake in Manitoba seemed, as always, peaceful and untouched. Birds chirped in the cool spring air, and the vast boreal forest echoed with the sounds of nature. But what happened that day would turn a remote patch of Canadian wilderness into the center of one of the most compelling and well-documented UFO cases in history, an event that would remain unexplained for decades and still baffle scientists, skeptics, and believers alike. The man at the center of the mystery was Stefan, a Polish immigrant and industrial mechanic with a passion for amateur geology. That weekend, he had traveled from his home in Winnipeg to prospect for quartz and silver near Falcon Lake, a rugged and secluded area he had explored many times before. Equipped with maps, a rock hammer, and a notebook, Stefan set off alone, Nova, imagining that his quiet weekend in nature would become a chapter in UFO lore. Around noon, on May 20th, 1967, while chipping at a rock formation, Stefan was startled by the sound of geese erupting into the air in panic. Looking up, he saw two cigar-shaped objects glowing in the sky, descending in unison, as one of them hovered for a moment and then zipped away. The other continued its descent, landing silently on a flat rock about 50 meters from where he stood. What Michalak saw next was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The craft was a metallic, disc-shaped object, about 35 feet across and 10 feet high, shining like polished steel, with a strange purple glow around it. At first, he thought it might be an experimental military aircraft, so he cautiously approached, sketching it in his notebook. As he drew nearer, he noticed an open hatch on the side of the object and heard what sounded like voices, muffled, unintelligible, like people talking behind a thick wall. Curious and believing it might be a downed USA aircraft, he called out in English, then in Polish, then in German. There was no response. Peering into the open hatch, he saw a panel of lights and beams inside, unlike any cockpit he had ever seen. Then, suddenly, the hatch closed, and the object began to rotate, emitting a strange, high-pitched whirring noise. As Stefan backed away, a grid-like exhaust vent on the side of the craft blasted a scorching wave of hot gas directly at him, setting his shirt on fire and knocking him to the ground. Dazed, nauseated, and in pain, he scrambled through the brush, eventually making his way back to the highway. He flagged down a passing RCMP officer, who later described him as disoriented, severely burned, and smelling of sulfur and chemicals. Michalak was taken to a hospital in Winnipeg, where doctors treated him for first-degree burns arranged in a perfect grid pattern across his abdomen, an injury consistent with his account. Over the next several weeks, he suffered from bizarre symptoms: headaches, nausea, blackouts, weight loss, and what appeared to be radiation sickness, though the exact source of exposure was never found. The site of the encounter was soon swarming with investigators from the RCMP to Canadian military officials, and even American agencies like the USA Air Force and NASA. Soil samples from the area showed strange radioactive readings. The rocks where the craft had reportedly landed were scorched, and a circle of burnt moss marked the site for years. Despite exhaustive investigations, no hoax or natural explanation was ever proven. What made the Falcon Lake case stand apart from other UFO sightings was not just the detail of Stefan's testimony, but the physical evidence: the burns, the radioactive soil, the scorched vegetation, and his medical symptoms. Even more compelling was Michalak himself, a sober, practical man with no history of mental illness or desire for fame. In fact, he never profited from his experience, and for the rest of his life, he regretted coming forward, as the publicity brought him ridicule and unwanted attention. Over the years, skeptics have suggested everything from a hallucination to a military experiment gone wrong, but no one has been able to explain the precision of the burns or the radioactive anomalies found at the site. Government documents later released under Canada's Access to Information (AFC) revealed that the case was classified and closely monitored for years. Yet even they concluded it remained unexplained. Today, the Falcon Lake UFO encounter is taught in UFO studies and remains one of Canada's most credible and baffling alien encounters. In 2017, the Royal Canadian Mint even issued a silver coin commemorating the 50th anniversary of the event, a rare moment when a nation acknowledged, if not confirmed, a mystery from the skies. Stefan Michalak passed away in 1999. Never changing his story. He always insisted that he had not seen little green men or been abducted, only that he had encountered something advanced, otherworldly, and unexplained. His son, Stan Michalak, continues to share his father's story, protecting the legacy of one of the strangest moments in Canadian history. And as the wind still whistles through the trees near Falcon Lake, one cannot help but wonder, What really landed there that spring afternoon? And so, the mystery of Falcon Lake continues to hover over the Canadian wilderness like the strange craft. Stefan Michalak described that day in 19... Was it a secret military experiment? A hallucination brought on by isolation? Or was it, as many believe, a genuine encounter with technology not of this world? Decades have passed, but the evidence remains: the burns, the radioactive soil, the fear etched into Stefan's memories. No hoax has ever been proven, and no explanation has ever satisfied those who know the story best. As long as questions remain unanswered, Falcon Lake will stand as a silent witness to one of the most compelling UFO encounters ever recorded, not just in Canada, but anywhere on Earth. If this story fascinated you, gave you chills, or made you question what is really out there, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to your channel for untold mysteries, strange encounters, and true stories that defy logic. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a moment where the truth might be just beyond the stars.